Hello there. Scotland wants to simplify the rules for adjusting the gender entry of trans people. The Conservative government in London sees British law under threat now. After a judge vetoed a referendum on Scottish independence, a new dispute is with that now emerging between London and Edinburgh. The Conservative British government wants to block a law that would make it easier for trans people to change their gender in Scotland. According to the PA news agency, Scotland Minister Alistair Jack announced this in London on Monday, and the BBC also reported on this. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's government is concerned that the Scottish regional government's plan breaches UK equality rules. The law aims to eliminate the requirement for a medical report as a prerequisite for changing the gender entry. The minimum age for an application should be lowered from 18 to 16 years. The length of time that a trans person must have lived in their not really new gender role should only be 3 months instead of 2 years. Trans people are people who do not identify with the gender they were assigned at birth. And trans people, that's short for transsexual or transgender people, are people who do not feel they belong to the gender they were assigned with. The Gender Recognition Reform Bill was considered the most controversial legislative project since the Scottish Regional Parliament was founded almost 24 years ago. The Scottish Regional Parliament voted in favour of the law in December, and this has triggered a fierce controversy. Critics like Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling fear that men could take advantage of the regulation to enter areas reserved for women, such as changing rooms or toilets, and that just for sexual motives. Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon had warned London against a blockade. The leader of the Scottish National Party, the SNP, accused the central government of using trans people as a political weapon. In my opinion, there's no basis for challenging this law, she said in Edinburgh, referring to the British central government. The conflict is likely to increase tensions between London and Edinburgh even more. As I said, the controversial law was passed by the Scottish Parliament on December 22nd after a lively debate, and King Charles III still has to sign for its entry into force. It is the first time a UK government has intervened in Scottish legislation in this way. Like Northern Ireland and Wales, as a result of the so-called devolution since 1998, Edinburgh actually has the right to make sovereign decisions in numerous policy areas without the British government having a say. The government of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is thus risking a further deterioration in relations with the northern part of the country. In November, the Supreme Court in London ruled that Scotland cannot hold an independence referendum without central government approval. In Scotland, in 2014, a majority voted against separation from the UK. The Scottish National Party that Sturgeon leads has long called for a repeat. As a reason, she cites Brexit, which a majority of Scots rejected in the 2016 referendum, but was overruled by the majorities in England and Wales, although in Wales it was also the English people. But there's also a little positive news. British media report that Prime Minister Rishi Sunak wants to put an end to discriminatory and highly unscientific forms of pseudo-medical practice on the island, the so-called conversion therapy, which is still legal in Britain. The supposed treatment aims to cure homosexual, bisexual, and transgender people. That means to change their gender identity or sexuality. And the premise is these are diseases. No, they are not. In the Tories, the process for corresponding law has been going on for years, and that also has to do with Boris Johnson. And Rishi Sunak wants to put an end to conversion therapies on the island. That was reported by German media. And ITV reports that legislation is due to be promulgated later this week, banning attempts to alter a person's sexuality or gender identity, as I said. The party had previously stated that it wanted to exempt conversion therapies in the area of transsexuality from a ban. There had been clear calls for a general ban across party lines, including from the Conservative Party itself. Sunak and his cabinet are now giving in to these demands, according to ITV. And according to the UK Daily News, some party officials threatened to side with the Labour Party around Keir Starmer if transgender people were not taken into account, and that with success. After years of back and forth, something seems to be happening. The idea of ending conversion therapy has long been on the Conservative political tableau, at least in theory. But it took almost 5 years for real progress to be recorded. Once again, Rishi Sunak's predecessor Boris Johnson cut a bad figure in this process, and ITV is reporting a document leaked last March that allegedly showed Johnson's intention as Prime Minister at the time to quietly drop plans for legislation. First, Theresa May promised a ban in 2018 but did not realize it, well, in 45 days. The exact form of the new law is apparently still unclear, and in connection with this, it's not yet clear when the regulation will actually come into force. Its announcement is only a first step. According to ITV, the government around Rishi Sunak wants to pledge to pass the law before the next elections. It's, as I said, a long process for the Tories, and Bojo is once again behind it. Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has caused a stir in the past with a statement on the subject of transsexuality. BuzzFeed reported on that, for example. On public television, Sunak had answered the question of whether trans women were also women with a clear no. He had also expressed this assessment on other occasions. And according to BuzzFeed, however, during the election campaign, the future Prime Minister himself declared that he wanted to transform Great Britain into the friendliest, safest and liveliest place in the world for LGBT+. An end to conversion therapies is still a very small step on this path, and one that comes late, very late. Here in Germany, it took very long as well, but conversion therapies are forbidden here in Germany. And combine that long time passing with just an announcement, we have not seen a bill or anything, with the first part of the video with blocking the new gender law in Scotland, it's not making this Tory government a shining beacon for the LGBT+ community. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.